Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mayor's Breakfast. I'm so excited that you're joining in virtually today, and we have a great lineup today, and I'm so thankful for what God's doing even in our community, even in this turbulent time. And so I'm Jeff Simmons, lead pastor here at Rolling Hills Community Church. I want to welcome everybody, and let me open our time with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Father God, thank you. Thank you that you are sovereign and you're in control over all that's happening in our world today. Father, we do pray for our election that's coming up in another week, and pray, Father, for our leaders. Father, I pray for our mayors and just lift up Mayor Rogers Anderson and Mayor Ken Moore, and just thank you for their leadership and the difference that they make in our community. Give them wisdom, give them strength, God, and we bless them today. Father, thank you all that you're doing in Franklin, and just to be able to live in this amazing place. Father, protect everyone in our community. Father, help people to be healthy. God, heal those who are sick. And Father, give us strength to serve you every day. And we bless today, and I bless everybody who's watching. And it's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen, amen. I want to turn it over to Mindy. We've got a great day planned.
So much, Jeff. Thank you so much, Jeff. And welcome, Alina Bell, our board chair. I'm Mindy Tate, Executive Director of Franklin Tomorrow. And we're here this morning at Rolling Hills Community Church, where we normally would have a huge crowd, but we've got some friends kind of to join us in a little bit, right?
We do, Mindy, we do.
So I want to take this time to welcome you to Franklin Tomorrow's Breakfast with the Mayors, presented by Pinnacle Financial Partners. We also want to thank Williamson Medical Center, a sustaining partner for Franklin Tomorrow.
Returning for 2020 as platinum partners are Williamson County Association of Realtors, Hazen and Sawyer, Patterson, Hardy, and Ballantyne Public Accountants. Partners are so important because they allow us to keep our events free. While we don't have friends from Community Coffee or Puckett's Grocery and Restaurant here today, we hope to resume our regular format for Breakfast with the Mayors soon.
Yes, well, we might go there for breakfast afterwards, just to make sure the business is busy. So
Let's do that.
while we felt best not to have an audience with us today at Rolling Hills, we do have our virtual audience, which includes those of you watching on social media and our website, but also our Zoom friends. Hi guys, we've got our Zoom friends, our virtual audience. They're gonna be with us and have a chance maybe to ask some questions later of the mayors or Scott Hamilton. And so we're excited to have that group with us today. Thanks guys, have a good day. Glad you're here. 2020 is the 20th anniversary of the founding of Franklin Tomorrow. We're going to hear this year didn't go as we planned, so laugh when you make plans about things. That's one of the things that 2020 has taught me. But we are hopeful that 2021 is a brighter day ahead. And so we're going to hear from our mayors now. They're here. We've got Williamson County Mayor Rogers Anderson and Franklin Mayor Ken Moore joining us this morning to talk about what 2020 taught me. Come on up, guys. You can stand or sit, whichever you prefer.
Well, good morning, Mindy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
And to all of the listening audience, Dr. Ken Moore, thank you. And I thought I would wear the Mayor's Cup golf tournament mask today, but I'm going to take it off since we're pretty close to 6 feet away. Thanks for being with us. It's been an interesting year that we've had this year in our county. To say the least. I won't go into all the details, but I do want to touch on a few of the highlights that we've had this year. Amazing leadership amongst all the departments, elected officials, appointed officials, to get through this period of time that none of us had really ever had any education, formal education, about how to prepare for a COVID-19 pandemic event. One of the things, though, has been critical to me is that we were able to work through our budget issues the way we did on July the 1st, and we're still working through those. We've refinanced a lot of bonds to help create some savings to pay the bills, but the sales tax is still holding up strong. Our property tax notes have gone out. So those simple things that mean so much to government to be able to continue functioning are still there. one of the things, one of the items that I have followed very closely, and I don't have the answer for it, is our unincorporated residential building permits. In the month of September, we had the largest single month of building permits for September ever that we've kept any history of.
Wow.
That goes back into the late 80s. So that tells me that people are still finding this little place that we call Franklin and Brentwood and Nolensville and Spring Hill, Thompson Station and Fairview, all within Williamson County. And we welcome them. And the job market, Matt Largent over at the Chambers, the job market's holding up real good. Our unemployment numbers we're second in the state. So we have a lot to be thankful for, even during a very difficult and trying times. My final comment, Mindy, would be that it's been increasingly hard on our public schools, private schools, home schools. We realize all that, and to those men and women that are serving as teachers, the leadership team that is trying to keep our schools open, because we all know that kids learn best in a classroom, but it's very difficult to pull that off. To our hospital workers over at Williamson Medical Center and all those clinics and private, we say thank you. And of course, what I have the wonderful opportunity to see and observe are those first line defenders, our ambulance workers, our local law enforcement, our sheriff, the police chiefs, all of those men and women that are out there, and even in the volunteer market, when there's a fire and emergency, those men and women are responding just like they did last year and the year before, but now they've got an added element of safety that they need to be worried about. So thank you to all of you that have worked so hard. And Ken, you and I don't have anything to be thankful for about what happened last Saturday in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I'll let you handle that. Once again, Alabama served us up on a platter. So for all of you Alabama fans out there that are watching, congratulations. And so the 13th year in a row, I'll say we'll get you next year.
Well, definitely we're going to get them next year. We had a few breakdowns. They were just minor. But we had some bright spots, and we're going to be back. And when your blood's orange like mine and Roger's, we are eternal optimists. And I really appreciate Roger's comments about our first responders, our fire and police, and our frontline medical workers that, they're to the point of exhaustion, I think, because of this pandemic and the stress that it's caused. And these certainly are such unprecedented times, and it's been difficult to kind of predict where we're going for the future. But let me hit a little bit on how the city's running. The city's running very well. We do a lot of planning. We do a lot of predicting. We did not predict this pandemic and the economic impact of it, but we did come out pretty flat last fiscal year. Actually $14,000 ahead, which was a little surprise, and we're going to see that our revenue is pretty flat this year, and we're seeing an unprecedented amount of development going on right now. But I've gone a bit more philosophical this morning as far as what the pandemic has taught me, and I think the first thing is messaging. I see that, from the start of the pandemic to now, there's been so many different messages presented to the public. The public's very confused about what the message is. And so it's taught me to make sure that as we deliver messages that we can back those up and at least put a disclaimer if we're not, if we can't fully predict. And I've also noticed it's been a good opportunity for many families just to slow down and pause and enjoy each other. I think it's been positive for family life. I've also noticed that we've gotten much more dependent upon those little things we hold in our hand. In fact, I want to start advocating that we need to have a day in Franklin where nobody gets on social media for the day and just do something
Would we know if
different.
anything happened, though? Would that be like would we know if anything happened? A tree fell in the woods? I'm not sure.
Mindy, you would bring that up. But I think we've realized how fragile we are as individuals, and how important it is to socialize and touch each other and hug each other and slap each other on the back. And, we've seen an uptick in mental health issues in our community and a little more domestic violence. And certainly we've been promoting awareness of suicide and suicide prevention. I would say that patience and grace, particularly to others, is really important right now for us to consider. And I think it's important that we understand the perspective of other people in our community. This is a time when everybody's got an opinion. It may not be your opinion, but try to understand and accept that it's okay for them to have that opinion. And continue to be resilient. And also, as philosophically here in the city, we plan so much. We haven't shut city operations and city plans down. We're continuing to push forward to the future. And the future is there. People are still moving here. People are still investing in our community. So I encourage everybody to lift somebody up today. And I wanted to share a note with you that I got last night. And somebody texted my wife and said, "I left you something at the front door." And just the sweetest little note in this very stressful time for all of us. It says, "Remember, during these crazy times, there are people who love and appreciate you too." So we love you, Franklin. Thanks, Mandy.
Thanks so much, virtual audience. Yay. We're clapping. That's how you clap. So with a virtual audience. We're going to bring y'all back up in a minute, but we're going to listen to Scott Hamilton next. I'm going to introduce Scott by saying our speaker successfully bridged the gap between sports and entertainment. He's a motivational speaker, television broadcaster, best-selling author, humanitarian, cancer survivor, eternal optimist, my favorite thing, and one of the most popular figure skaters in the world. As a champion and a survivor, Scott Hamilton is a constant reminder that with faith, fortitude, and determination, anything is possible. Please welcome Olympic gold medalist Scott Hamilton.
In a world of hustle, distraction, and busyness, live your days as a call to presentness. It's about embracing the fact that we don't control the number of days we have on this earth. We only control what we do with them. It's a challenge to decide what living means to you. It's a call to live, truly live each day.
Well, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, for that beautiful introduction. And I love that video. It just gets me so pumped up to just go after each day. 2020, every now and then when I get it kind of like a low, I think, oh man, 2020 was a whiff. I mean, it was just like a year that did not exist. And then I take a step back and it's like 2020 has been a powerful year. It's been an extraordinary year where, I've been able to kind of just get off the road, be more, present with my family, be, sitting around the dinner table, which we never do between kids' sports and their activities at school and the skating academy and all the other things that we do constantly. It's just go, go, go. Okay, I can get there. We can make it. I think it's all going to work. It's just, all that stuff that just do every day. And we forget, just to be still and to be a family, and to be totally available and aware of how we can be involved in each other's lives and listen and just be quiet. So, you know, a lot of 2020 has been that. It's been just to be quiet, be still, and to allow those voices around us to be heard, and not just, you know, a pass through. You know, it's just a really tempting thing to do, for a day to be just a day that it just slips by us, where we don't really know what happened. What happened today? Let me pull out my phone, and oh yeah, I had breakfast. And, you know, it's like then we have a Zoom, and then another Zoom, and then another Zoom. And okay, I want a show of hands for everybody out there. How many of you have kind of like shamelessly done a Zoom in your underwear? Okay, there you go. Okay, there's a couple. You know, it's just, the world has changed, and it seemed like it was overnight. My son and I, my 17-year-old son and I, had the honor and the privilege of joining Steve Berger and the Grace Chapel family, of going on a pilgrimage to Israel in March. Think about that for a second. It was a powerful trip where we got to see and learn and see, like, Scripture come alive, and understand the scriptural, historical, you know, geographical, architectural identity of the Holy Land. And it was a great memory for he and I to have this father-son trip. And we had 2 days left in the trip, and the Knesset met, their parliament, and basically said, we're shutting down the country, no one in, no one out. And my son was watching the news, and he looked at me and he goes, are we stuck here? And I said, well, what do you think about that? And he goes, I'm okay. Are you okay with that? And I go, I'd be 100% great with that. You know, because ultimately I want to just pick up, you know, I love Nashville. I love every ounce of this community. I love the people, but ultimately, living in Israel would be really cool. So, you know, we got the last flight out. We went right on time. We got to see what we needed to see, and we got to experience what we needed to experience. And we flew home, and we came back to a world that was different than the one we left. And it's shocking when that happens, when a world event like that takes root, and all of a sudden we have to adjust to all these new guidelines and rules, and you know, all of a sudden it's what are we going to do? You know, my wife was paying attention, and you know, she's kind of the nurturer of the family, and she makes sure that we have everything we need, and it was going to the supermarket, you know, with goggles and face masks and, you know, rubber gloves and just rubbing everything. I mean, the fear was extraordinary. The fear drove everything. And as we, you know, waited out the 2 or 3 weeks it would take in order to flatten the curve and get back to life, you know, we just sort of stepped into the new, and we paid attention, and we tried to be involved, and we were wondering what our identity is in all of this. You know, if you know much about me, yeah, I was a skater, and I wore a lot of spandex. I'm really glad I wasn't allergic or anything, because I would have died. But you know, it's one of those things where I collect life-threatening illness. It's a weird hobby. I don't really recommend it. I think like stamps and coins are probably really good baseball cards. They're great. Life-threatening illnesses are not really cool things to collect. But in that odd collection, it started when I was, 4 years old. I stopped growing. I started showing incredible signs of stress. I go from hospital to hospital to hospital, test to test to test to test. They could never figure out. This is a 4-year, started in Bowling Green, Ohio, went to Toledo, Ohio. We just kept going to bigger doctors, bigger hospitals, and went to Ann Arbor, the Children's Hospital there at the University of Michigan. There they told me I had 6 months to live. It's fun for my family to hear. And we finally left there and went to Boston Children's, where we were honored to be working with a doctor who, named, it's kind of the oldest medical joke in the world. It's like, I've got good news, bad news. Well, give me the good news first. Well, we're going to name a disease after you. Well, Dr. Harry Schwachman found this disease called Shwachman-Diamond syndrome, and I had every single one of the symptoms. test after test after test, and so many nights sleeping in those hospital beds with my mother asleep in a chair in the corner, and the stress that we all went under was unbelievable. And it's just those unknowns. It's like, what's wrong? We don't know. How do we handle this? We don't know. What's going to be tomorrow? We don't know. Can we? What is there another test? Sure, we'll try, but we don't know. And the stress was just unbelievable for my parents to be able to, have this adopted child. They didn't know my health history. They didn't know how tall I was supposed to be. They didn't know really anything. That was just sort of like, we're going to guide and love this child through their lives. Adoption is the greatest thing. I know I was adopted and I have adopted. So it's a powerful, wonderful gift that we can give to a child, that they have a forever family and they can grow up in a beautiful environment. So after the 4 years, Dr. Schwachman said, go home, live a normal life, and see what happens. Take them off the restrictive diets. I wasn't allowed to have dairy or flour or sugar. So now for the first time in memory, I was going to have birthday cake. This was like a win. So I went home and it was, our family doctor met with my mom and said, you guys need a morning off. This 4-year journey has been so stressful and so toxic for you. Just take one morning and do nothing. Sleep in, read the paper, just recharge your batteries. And then, how are we going to do that? We have this sick kid. And they go, no, it's a brand new facility at Bowling Green State University, a skating rink. Send him there. He can learn how to skate between 8 and noon every Saturday, and you guys get your morning off. We'll take him to the rink. Both my daughters skate, and it'll be a lot of fun. So there was the window. There was the next. There was this step forward where whatever that 4-year journey was that had no solution, no answer, no anything, I could step into a new and sort of own that space. And I realized after a couple weeks that I was skating as well as the well kids. It's like, I was used to being around sick kids because I spent all those years in hospitals, but I wasn't really around well kids all that much. So I could skate as well as the well kids. Wow, that's really powerful. And a few weeks later, I realized that I could skate as well as the best athletes in my grade. And for the first time in my life, I had this self-esteem. Like I can do something. I have value. I have the next. So that ushered me into a whole adventure that, was just unbelievable. My health returned. Mysteriously, nobody really knows why. And I was able to build an identity and build a daily purpose and grow and grow. I didn't grow a lot, but I grew a little bit. But it was one of those things where out of unbelievable circumstances came this amazing gust of fresh air that I was now getting into the next. And none of that was possible without what came before it. Eric Heiden said in the 1980 Olympics, it's not the events in our life that define us, it's how we respond to them. And I always remember that because it came out of a great deal of success for him. It wasn't failure for him. It wasn't those moments in your life where you're just at your lowest that you have to find your way to kind of climb up. It was he won every single race in the Olympic Games, setting records in several of them. That's winning every sprint to the marathon. Eric Heiden won every race, and he was like the golden child, and all these companies came after him for endorsements, and he's like, no, I'm taking a step back. I'm going to do one endorsement because I need to pay for my medical education. He wasn't going to allow the tail to wag the dog, as it were. He was going to step into his life on his terms, not allow what happened to him to take him through and have to respond to all these new stimuli when he really only wanted to be a doctor. That was his plan, and he was going to allow his success on the ice to pave the way for his success in the surgery in the operating room. And I'll never forget that because as I went through, I lost a lot of competitions and I had to learn. I fell down a lot and I had to get up. I realized in the writing of my last book, Finish First, that I'd fallen on the ice a minimum of 41,600 times. It's the getting up 41,600 times that really allow you to fortify yourself and to understand what's next. 1997, diagnosed with cancer. It was like, really? This is kind of inconvenient. I'm booked. I don't really have time for cancer. And it was one of those things where, no. Shh. Stay there. Listen. Here's what you've got to do. All right, I'm coachable. Tell me what I got to do. I'm going to be the best patient you ever had. Let's move this thing forward. And so I had, 8-hour infusions of chemotherapy 5 days in a row, 16 days off, 5 days in a row, 16 days off, 5 days in a row. And these 8-hour infusions are really wonderful times for reflection. Am I living my life the way I want to? Am I living the way I should be? There's something in my mind that's telling me I need to step forward in a different way, in a unique way, and I gotta figure out what that is. And it's in those times of incredible stress, in those times of incredible fear, that you really need to just be still and to understand what's next and just prepare yourself for it. Out of that cancer, 3 years later, to the day of my diagnosis, I met my wife. And I was open to that, and I wouldn't have been had it not been for the cancer. We have our first child. A few months later, I'm diagnosed with a pituitary brain tumor. It's like, no, that's not fair. Come on, I've done all my medical stuff. I get a break now, right? And it's like, no, you got something growing, and it's creating mischief, and you've got to deal with it. And that ignited my faith. And it was so powerful that just to be able to kind of surrender all of that to a living, loving Lord who gave it all for us. And it was just like, yeah, whatever, it is what it is and whatever it takes. It is what it is and whatever it takes. That was our mantra. And so they had to do a biopsy through my brain. They say we found a safe corridor. I told them I'm not using most of it. Have at it. And so they were able to take a piece and diagnose the brain tumor as a craniopharyngioma, a brain tumor that children are born with. If you live long enough, all questions will be answered. Take stock in that. If you live long enough, all questions will be answered. So they treated with radiation, back to life. We were able to have another child. 2 years, after our other child was born, 6 years after the first brain tumor number 2. And this one was like a kick in the gut. It's like, I've got all these responsibilities. I just don't know how to do this. And out of that one surgery, there was a complication. One surgery became 9. I lost my right eye for a day, kind of came back. But I learned so much in that period about how strong I can be and how much I can endure. And then it was back to life. 6 years later, the brain tumor comes back again. And this time it was, okay, we've been here, we've done this, we've survived, okay? I can figure this one out. And as they're giving me all of the treatment options, as they're pouring into me all these different things that we can do, all I kept hearing is wop, 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 the Charlie Brown thing that, they're talking to me and all I'm hearing is wop. Because right in my mind, all I kept feeling, all I kept hearing was get strong, get strong. And I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know if it meant physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. What does this get strong mean? And so I chose E, all of the above. And it was the most amazing thing. They go, what do you want to do? And I go, nothing. We found this thing in its infancy. Let's just keep an eye on it. And when it's time, when it starts to do its mischief and it starts to interfere with my overall health, then we can intervene. But in the meantime, I'm going to get really strong. And so I hit the gym. I cleaned up my diet. I started reading. I started getting into the Word. I started devoting myself into my faith. And I watched this tumor shrink and shrink and grow and shrink and grow and shrink and shrink and grow. And I've never had to pull the trigger on treatment yet. And if I do, it'll unveil the next. And it was really funny because out of that diagnosis, I was working with 5x5 Agency, and we came up with this idea of live your days. It came out of a People.com interview I did where I just said, look, I'm fine. whatever is going on, I'm fine. I just wanted this one interview to get on people's prayer chains and just, pray this tumor away. I'm fine. And well, how do you tell your children? Oh, well, my son's going to ask me, is your brain tumor back? And I'm going to say, yes, it is. Yes. And he's going to, what? Go on. Kids, when they fall down, they look to you first to see if they're okay. And if you respond like, then they're going to go, I must be hurt. But if you look at me, come here, get up. You could have been hurt. Then they go, I guess I'm okay. We say, are we okay? We allow them to understand if they're hurt or not. And we give them the confidence to rise above. And that was my swing thought. So we did this video for people.com, and it was viewed over 35 million times. What in the world? People need hope. That's the only thing I could take away from that. And so through 5x5, we came up with this idea of Live Your Days. Our bodies, as we found, we've listened to more doctors and we know more about medicine than we ever thought we could. Our bodies are incredibly fragile, very vulnerable to a lot of things, but they're also phenomenally resilient, powerful, incredible, miraculous instruments for healing and for, oh my goodness, just growth, and our bodies are amazing in what they can accomplish. But ultimately, they're temporary. How are we going to live these days? How are we going to take the time that we've been given and really be authentic and really be organic to it? How are we going to take our days and make them count? This isn't a rehearsal. I had lots of those, and that's where you get all your mistakes out. No, this is the performance. So 4 years ago, I said, no, Live Your Days, it doesn't feel right now to do it now. In April, I got a call from 5x5, and they just said, this is 4 years later, they said, now? And I said, now. People need hope now. They need to take ownership of their lives now. They need to understand the power that lives within them now. And so, we got the URL, liveyourdays.com. We created a 30-day challenge just to remind us of the joy and the ability and the power of our individuality and who we are as people. We set up a store so that whatever we sell, the proceeds can go towards cancer research through My Cares Foundation, so that we can use all of that to kind of heal not only ourselves, but our world. When we hear all the numbers of cases and all the deaths and everything, there's still 1,660 people a day dying of cancer in this country. You look at all the deaths of despair. We live without hope, really? No. We have within us the incredible power to rise up and to face the next day with incredible power and authority and joy. My wife said it best. Every time I go in for a scan, I go, no matter the news, it's joy. I'm going to face it joyfully. And she just said, the joy, in an interview, she said this, and I was kind of listening around the corner, just kind of eavesdropping. She said, joy isn't the lack of fear and suffering. It's how you go through it. So as we listen to our leadership, our mayors here, and as we understand our power and our unique identity as the people, we are the people, and we decide, how we're going to take our next steps forward. We're in an election cycle which has become really animated. I guess that's the word I could use here. Where there's a lot we feel at stake, but there's still, God is on the throne, and we're going to be okay, because as long as we love the person standing directly in front of us, we're doing the best we can to change our world now and forever. So as I close, and I know you're probably saying, oh, thank goodness, I just want to encourage you all, really just shore yourselves up. Get strong, get healthy, get interested, be emotionally, physically, intellectually, spiritually, shore yourselves up, and you'll be amazed at the power that you have within you to not lose hope in the storm, but to be able to rise up to every situation, no matter what it is, and to know that we live in an amazing country where we have voices and we have the ability to determine our own futures and our own, whatever's happening now, this too shall pass. We're preparing for the next. And when the next happens, it's going to be better than we ever thought it could be. So live your days. Join us at liveyourdays.com, and let's just fortify ourselves and prepare ourselves for the next, and to understand that we live in the greatest country in the world, and we have the power to manage it, maintain it, and ensure its future in love, in joy, in peace, in patience, in goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So I wish you all health and strength and faith, and this too shall pass. Live your days. God bless you all.
Got our virtual audience offering their applause, and we're going to have a seat, and the mayors are going to come up and join us. Thank you to our virtual audience for being here this morning. And I think that was a message we all could use right now. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. And if anybody in our virtual audience has a question, or if you have one on social media and you want to submit that, we will be happy to take that as well. So that was a powerful message.
Well, absolutely. When you've been on the journey that Scott Hamilton's been on, then you tend to listen.
Has your faith been at the center of what's kept both of you going, both the mayors and Scott this year? Your faith, is that at the center of what's kept you going? What has kept you going?
Well, when you truly understand, and I didn't for a long time understand the power of a relationship with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Without that, days just sort of have very little meaning. It's just another, get up, do this, do that, and you just sort of go through the motions. But when you understand the power in that relationship and what can come of it, it changes everything. And when I hear, all the deaths of despair, could that life have been saved had they had a relationship? Again, it's that whole idea that that muscle that's been built is, I've been knocked down a lot, I've fallen down a lot, I've failed a lot, I've been criticized a lot, I've gone through a lot of stuff, but all those things are to be endured. We've all failed. It's like whenever I give a talk, I go, how many people in this room have failed? Raise your hands. And I go, if you didn't raise your hand, either you're not listening or you're lying, because we all fail. We're human beings. But it's understanding those failures and moving forward that really gives our lives meaning and purpose.
Wow. What a message of encouragement and hope. And I hope we'll play this again a lot of times, because, these are stressful times. They're challenging times. But these times are going to pass. We live in one of the best places in the world to live, and we are so blessed with a lot of jobs and a great quality of life, and we just need to show that thankfulness and have that. I like that Scott Hamilton spirit. Thank you for sharing that, Scott.
Well, I've traveled a lot, and I've seen others. I've been to, pretty much every continent except for Antarctica, and there's ice there. I can't believe I haven't been there yet, but it's just one of those things where, it's, you have something to compare it to. And this country, as much as, we I always say that, we're a dysfunctional family, but we put the fun in dysfunctional, right? We've got something here that is extraordinary. And it's really hard to understand that unless you have something to compare it to. And when you go around and you see other, I used to visit, the Eastern Bloc countries back in the day when it was, communism and the Soviet Union, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, all those places. And they were sad places. We've got a very vibrant, very dynamic country where people have voices and they can use them, and it's like awesome. And, we're able to live the dream of the promise that we could do something if we just put our heads down and do the work. I'm totally unlikely. Like, there's nothing like that would say Olympic gold medalist about me, really? I mean, I'm 5 foot nothing. I was sick as a child. I mean, all those things. But it's like, that's what we can have in this country is the opportunity. And that's what we can have in this country is we can choose to really build our lives. And it's extraordinary when, you see those great stories. My children got to meet Carol Holding. She and her husband own Sun Valley Resort in Idaho. And they started with nothing as a couple. They leased an orchard, and they were able to leverage that into something. And they built this incredible life. And my sons and my daughter were listening to, their eyes were this big. And she said, I just feel bad for you children that you'll never understand the unbelievable power of building something slowly over time. And it goes back to those devices, the instant gratification that we're all used to. And I just really want to, encourage all young people, especially, that dream, be bold, dream. Whatever your talents are, whatever you think, just go after it with everything you have, because everything's possible.
So this event, normally we'd have an audience of 350 or so, 350 or 400 people, and we have an audience of about 4 people as it is today. I think something we've learned is that to be more useful and mindful of people's time. While we're kind of tired of Zoom meetings or being online, it has been useful in how we have used our time and what our expectations are of people. So I want to ask the mayors, are there any ways in which the events of this year may have fundamentally changed local government?
Wow. Well, I think the answer to that is yes, and I think a lot of the answer is still unknown. Certainly we've learned to do things remotely. Certainly we've learned how to listen to our community without face-to-face meetings. I think we had some things reinforced, such as how important planning is, and all those things we've been doing for so long to make sure that we continue to be a vibrant city that satisfies the needs of our citizens. It's been reinforced. I think the biggest is still unknown, how it's going to change us.
Well, I think all of us realize that family is so very precious, and time is precious, and you spend with your family. I got in last night from Cashiers, North Carolina. Just went away for the weekend and spent time with my family, hiking, seeing the waterfall, the beauty, and just realizing just how awesome God really is in creation of this world we live in. And to hear Scott say that through a journey through life, you get down to our level, and I think people are rediscovering things outside of their home. I know our Parks and Recreation, for an example, we can't handle all of the people going to the Timberland parks here in town, and I know there's places. We opened a mountain bike trail over in Wilkins Branch Road, and it's open every day. I'm too old to get on the bike and fall and hurt and get up. But I've got lots of grandsons and granddaughters that seem to enjoy getting bruises. But I can tell you that what we're seeing from the general population, there's an argument certainly about the healthier community that we're trying to drive. Ken has been a leader in that in Williamson County and Franklin, and the #1 healthiest community in the state. But I just see a rededication of our community. People are discovering our communities. They're moving here, Mandy.
Right.
they are coming here for a reason, and I don't have all the answers. Some days I'm not sure I have any of the answers, but deep down I know that there's something special about Williamson County, and it's not the two mayors, and it's not Scott Hamilton. It's our collective effort of all of us working together.
So our virtual audience has some questions, and we're going to try to make this work. So we're going to start with Kevin Townsell. You have a question for someone on our panel?
I do. Good morning, Mindy. Good morning, mayors. Good morning, Scott. I've got to say, we've got a champion skater here. I've got to ask you this question. What made you come to Franklin, Tennessee? We don't have a lot of ice rinks. What made you come here?
You know, it's I never really had Tennessee. It was never on my radar. My wife was born and grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, and so her gigantic family. I mean, huge family. Her mother is one of 11, so do the math of the cousins and everything else. And and my family is relatively small, so both my parents are deceased, and so her parents became kind of so dear to me. And we had our first child, and we're living in Los Angeles. And as we kind of looked around, I just sort of understood in a very powerful way that I didn't have this skill set to raise my son in Los Angeles. It's tough. It's just too hard. It's big, and it's the general value system in LA is so much different than what I grew up in northwestern Ohio. And so we, it's funny, we kept running into Brad and Kip Paisley in LA, just the different fundraisers and mutual friends and all those things. And it was kind of like, okay, we got to pay attention to this. And they came over to our house for dinner one night, and I was talking to Brad, and I don't know, I don't want to raise my son here. In my heart, I don't feel it's right. And he goes, well, come to Nashville. And I go, well, okay. And he goes, no, just come, spend a few days on our farm. We have a beautiful place here in Williamson County. And Tracy and I go, that'd be fun. We should do that. And so we did, and we spent 4 days here, and he introduced us to a real estate agent, and we bought a house. And it was kind of that. It was just, it feels great. It feels like it is a family-centered, church-based, beautiful, incredibly gorgeous community. I love the seasons. I love that this is the most giving community like I've ever been in. I mean, it's just astounding how people are so invested in everyone else's lives and causes. And I just, I felt so comfortable moving here, and living here for the last almost 16 years has just been the greatest gift ever because of the way we've been able to raise our family and grow our family and get involved in the community. It's just been spectacular. And honestly, I do believe that, you look at, Nashville proper and all the surrounding areas, especially Williamson County, and there's no place like it. I joke that it's the center of the universe because no other state borders 8 states, and you look at how easy it is to get from point A to point B through the best airport in the United States, and I'm just like, I just fell into this. It's awesome. It's the best ever.
Well, we're glad to hear that, aren't we, mayors? Pretty glad to hear that. We got another question from our panel. I think Alderman Brandy Blanton has a question for us.
Hey, good morning, Rogers and Ken and Scott. It's funny, I had a question and you almost just answered it, Scott, but I think for me and being a part of Franklin Tomorrow and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and all the various wonderful opportunities in our community, I think community is so important. And you talk about, I know some of your dear friendships, but where do you find community within all of the various things you're involved in, from skating to, your speaking engagements and also, Provision and the proton therapy?
Well, it's so much emanates from here. When you look at healthcare, Nashville is an epicenter for healthcare. It's just amazing. Tennessee was the first state in the United States to have 3 proton therapy centers, and one of them is right across the street from the Williamson County Medical Center in Franklin. It's extraordinary, you know, just the Nashville Predators and my relationship with them, building the skating academy and the Learn to Skate, and now we have a high performance program there. It's just been an unbelievable way of pouring into families and you know, trying to save lives. And when I took my CARES initiative from the Cleveland Clinic and we became a dedicated foundation, we did that here in Tennessee. And it seemed like the best right place to do it, just because of, you know, healthcare and because of all the people that are dedicated to make a difference in cancer here. And it's been an amazing way of really engaging the community and empowering them and making new friends and just allowing people that have lost members of their family to this disease to understand there's a destination where we can make a difference for the next family going through this. You know, I lost my mom to cancer, and she was the center of my universe, and I've dedicated everything to, if I could figure out a way to treat her form of cancer, then I'll know why I was born. And that's a Danny Thomas quote, but it's like, that's true. It's like, again, unlikely. I was an unwanted, unintended child, put up for adoption, and I've just been able to do all these incredible things, but you can't do anything alone. You know, I know the mayors know that too. You know, you need to rely on, you know, there's so many different facets of this community that really give it health and vibrance and opportunity, and you know, it takes all of us to make this thing happen in the best way possible. And it's just, again, an honor to be here with the mayors, and know they've got a lot on their plate right now, and we all do, and we've just got to figure out a way to maintain the integrity of our community, of our county, of our state, and in that way we can be a beacon of hope for the rest of the country.
Thank you.
Great. We've got a question from Adam Hicks on our virtual panel.
Their mute's on.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've done that so many times.
we've done that so many times.
Unmute your microphone.
Gentlemen, let me try again. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for sharing your encouraging message this morning to all the citizens and community in Franklin and Williamson County. It was a powerful message indeed.
Thank you.
I do have a fun question for each of you this morning. That's during this COVID era, could you share one fun hobby or interest that has brought joy to your lives and to others during this downtime in 2020 that we've had? Thank you.
Mayor, so do you want to, so what's a fun hobby that has kept you going, or?
Well, many people have heard me say this. I think if it wasn't for golf, I would have collapsed during this pandemic. It's been, you know, we got a lot of criticism early on for leaving the golf courses open, and we've seen people flock to the courses, and we've seen people physically distance and stay safe, and it's just been a great mental relief to me to be able to play golf.
Rogers?
Well, I'm a little bit more agricultural than golf, and so most everyone that knows me knows that I raise a very large garden. This year, in between work and mask and meetings and decisions, I managed to raise an exceptionally large garden, and I have those East Tennessee roots when I moved here some 40 or 50 years ago that I just couldn't see it go to waste. So I was giving tomatoes and beans and everything away, but there was more being produced, and so I have a freezer full of Purple Hull peas and okra and green beans and things like that. So
I'll be right over.
Yeah.
Did anybody teach themselves a new skill or learn something new besides patience? That was my thing I learned this year, was patience.
You know, it was really ironic that our high performance coach, Corey Aid, even before the pandemic kind of shut everybody down in the ranks. She was already doing Zoom classes with her athletes, for mental training and for preparedness and everything else. And it was really wonderful to see that during that time they offered up continuing education for our coaches, that they could build their understanding and their techniques of teaching and everything while the rinks were closed. And it was really fun to see. It's like if life hands you lemons, make lemonade. It's that type of thing where it was, okay, we can't do that, we're going to do this. And I was so taken aback by that. It's like, well, what am I going to do? And so, for the past months, we've been building the whole Live Your Days platform because we realized that encouragement is one thing that's missing here. We're getting a lot of information. We're getting a lot of don't do this, you have to do that. And we're kind of, it's a very, it feels oppressive almost in the way that we're having to kind of live our day to day. And so in building Live Your Days, I just felt like, we need to understand that people can take control and can take power over their lives. And we had the blast doing and building a podcast. And I've talked to Robin Roberts and Bart Millard, Williamson County, and Kevin Nealon, Christy Yamaguchi, Miles Adcox, all these people that can share their stories in order to encourage and elevate people. So I was really busy doing that, and a 5x5 agency, which is right here as well, is just an incredible group and a great partner in all of this. And we just hope that we can offer the encouragement that people need when they're really feeling low to understand just how strong they can be. So that was one thing that I learned and I grew and I was able to experience during a time where there wasn't really a whole lot else going on.
Great. And we've got one more question, and we're going to have a question from Sharon Stewart.
Hi, thanks. I think you are already on this topic a little bit. I'm delighted to live in a community that focuses on fitness, both in a physical way and in an emotional way. And I love your message about staying physically fit. I would like to hear what you think the long-term effects are going to be of some of the closures on the development of our athletes. Because as you said, there are a lot of things that you can do psychologically through Zoom, but there at some level is no substitute for the actual repetition of the performance skills. So what do we think is going to be the long-term effect of that on our health as a community and with our athletes?
I do think you build your lives, you build good habits, you build your bodies, you build your health, and all of that is very intentional. And so much of it is, with facilities, it's just having the right facilities and having them, available to the public. I know that so many of the health clubs and everything have taken a hit during this time because of all the restrictions and everything of not being able to go because of this, the spread of this virus and all of that. But, there's a million things you can do inexpensively to be able to be fit. You can walk. There's so many trails and parks and places that are open here. It's understanding through the power of the internet, just what a good diet looks like and how to eat healthier. It's supplements. We all have heard that, zinc and vitamin D and vitamin C and all those things can be really powerful in helping our immune systems be strong enough to withstand everything that's coming at us. And it's just really being invested. From an early age, I was very, again, sick. And I got on the ice at 9 years old, and I just saw my body change rapidly just through that exercise and through that repetition. And so much about building good life habits is repetition. And, again, part of the Live Your Days thing is the 30-day challenge. And that's just a destination every day to kind of remind yourself of all the beautiful qualities that you could build in your life. And again, it comes down to facilities. The city of Nashville has built Bellevue Fordyce Center and the Antioch Fordyce Center, and they're both at capacity. So, it'd be really great to continue to build those types of facilities, especially on the higher end where people can take their first steps into whatever that is, and there's a lot of different ways of doing it. And we've got a lot of big plans that we're working on now that we'll unveil over the next few months. But it's been an extraordinary adventure just to see, just how sedentary children have become through video games and through, technology, and to try to inspire them to get out and get busy and get moving would be a really powerful thing to do for any community, to really invest in that as a way out of this pandemic.
One final question to the mayors. Submitted question. COVID or not, what is your priority for 2021?
Have we finished with 2020 yet?
Did we learn nothing from 2020? Let's not plan too much, or let's be versatile, I guess, maybe. But what?
I think we've learned a lot during the last 7 or 8 months. We've learned how to depend on people more. You can't possibly have all the knowledge. You have to depend on, if you're dealing with the medical side, you have to deal with the data, the doctors, the nurses. But I think the one thing in 2021 is, for me, that we'll try to look at other avenues for our community. I like the word resilient, but as we look down that road over the next 25 and 45 years, we know people are going to move here. We know our community is going to change, but we want to be able to change for the better. We want to be able to provide great schools, public schools, private schools will step up to the plate, homeschools, all of these things. But everything we do is through people and through good leadership. So 21 will be a challenge, I'm sure, the first 3 to 6 months, but I'm convinced we'll weather the storm and we'll come out on top, and because of the people we've got in our community.
Mayor Moore?
Well, I think it's a great question, and we've created a roadmap for the city on how we're going to progress for the future, and we look out about 10 years on what we're going to be doing. But I think that in 2021, we need to be focusing on those people maybe that have been left behind. We've focused a lot on mental health this year, and we'll continue to focus on that in 2021 with Find Hope Franklin. I love Scott's message that, when you fall down, get back up. But I'd add a little bit to that is when you see somebody fall down and they can't get back up, as a community, let's lift them back up and continue to grow this community as a place where everybody can have the opportunities to excel and live the quality of life.
Thank you so much to each of you, and I know our audience appreciates you, and we appreciate our audience as well. So thanks so much to them. As we finish today, we want to remind you that early voting continues through October 29th at numerous locations across the county, and you can vote at any of those locations for the November 3rd election, both in early voting and on election day. And then we would also encourage you to join us on Monday, November 9th, for our next Frank Talks lecture, which is presented by Renaissance Bank and Williamson Medical Center. And our topic will be City Hall on Wheels with City Administrator Eric Stuckey. And we're going to be checking in with him and other department heads on November 9th. On Tuesday, November 17th, it's a great chance to join us as we have our 14th annual Exemplary Community Volunteer Awards presented by USI and Grange Insurance. This is a wonderful opportunity. We've had over 50 nominations from the community and from nonprofit organizations to recognize those who have given their time and service to our community during the last year. And that'll be on November 17th. On our social media channels, it will be a virtual event. We'll be sending out more information about that, and we'll be releasing information about those nominees this week. So we're excited to do that. Our next Breakfast with the Mayors is January 26, 2021, and we hope to be together in person, but we appreciate you being part of Breakfast with the Mayors this morning, and we hope you go out and make it a great day and stay safe. Thanks.
Isn't it fun?